Hi loves, welcome back to another beautiful tutorial with Eco Designs to Fit. In case you are coming here for the very first time, I am Chinwendo, and in this very tutorial today you are going to be learning how to make this beautiful gown with lace-up back, and you are going to be making use of this sequin material for this tutorial. And because this sequin is kind of stretchy, we are going to be making use of this pattern paper for the drafting of this dress. Okay, now we are going to be drafting only the fronts for the upper bodice of this dress. This dress doesn't need any back bodice. Okay, so we are going to be marking out a starting line, and from the starting line go ahead and extend your tape and mark out the bust points and then the waist points, and you can as well add up 1 inch just like mine for hemming allowance. And you're just going to go ahead and mark your lines across. So after you are done with this, the next step is for you to measure your shoulder. So your shoulder, you're going to have to divide your shoulder by 2, and whatever you have there, you mark it out. So for this client, shoulder is 17 inches, so I went ahead to mark out 8.5 inches. And from this shoulder line, you're going to have to come down by 1 inch for your shoulder slope, and then divide your bust circumference by 6 plus 1.5 for your chest line. Okay, and after you mark it out, you're just going to connect your shoulder slope to your chest line, and that will be your armhole depth. And you're going to have to divide this armhole depth by 2, whatever you have, input it, and then go in by half an inch. And please don't forget to connect your shoulder slope into the shoulder line. Once you are done with that, you're going to have to, from the center front, divide your measurement, that is the bust measurement, by 4, and then plus your 1 inch allowance for sewing. Okay, and connect your front armhole. Okay, now I want to explain something. Because we are making use of a stretchy material, what I did right here was to divide my bust circumference or my waist circumference by 4, and after I divided that, whatever I have, I went ahead to minus 1 inch from my actual measurements before inputting it. Okay, so whatever I had right there minus 1 inch, just because your fabric is stretchy, and go ahead and mark it out plus before inputting your sewing allowance. Okay, so what I did was that this client, her measurement was 9 inches. Okay, after I divided it, so I went ahead to minus 1 inch. So what I input right here was 8 inches for the bust, and then for the waist I input 7.5 inches before inserting my sewing allowance. Now from the shoulder line, I'm going to determine the neckline that I want, and for her, she wants her neck to be very prominent. Okay, she wants her boobs to show, so I went ahead to use my chest line for the depth of my neck. So I went down from the shoulder line by 9 inches and connected that, and from there I went ahead to cut out my front pattern. Now remember, like I said, this dress is only coming with front bodies. Okay, nothing like the back. Okay, so I went ahead to label my front pattern, and I'm going to go ahead and set this aside. And then we bring in another brown paper. This time around we are going to be using this to draft our skirt. So for this skirt is not going to be having a zipper, but if you are making use of a satin or a duchess or any other fabric, lycra, scuba. Okay, scuba you might not add seam allowance because it's stretchy, okay, but any material which is not stretchy you can do away with. You can add up zip allowance, but any stretchy material you can do away with the zip allowance. So what I did was to fold into two, then mark out my starting line, which is the waistline, and from this starting line I'm going to take away my upper bodice, which is 16 inches. That's why you can see that I placed 16 inches because before marking out my hip line and then the length of the skirt. The length of my skirt is 36 inches, so I went ahead to input 1 inch for hemming allowance. Okay, and once I was done with that, I went ahead to label all my lines. So I have the waistline, hip line, and then the length plus my hemming allowance. Now from the center front, I'm going to input 8 inches plus my 1 inch seam allowance. Okay, just like I told you, whatever it is I have as my round body measurements, once I divide it by 4, I'm going to take away 1 inch from there because this is a sequin material and is very stretching. Okay, and I want this dress to snug my client perfectly well. That's why I'm removing this 1 inch, but if she wants it kind of free, you can leave it just like that. Okay, so to the hip, I went ahead to divide my hip circumference by 4 and then minus 1 inch, input what I have. Now going down to the length, I minus 1 inch from whatever it is I have on the hip line and then input that. Now going over to the waist, I added half inch allowance because I would need half an inch to join it to the upper bodice. Okay, and then I went ahead to cut out my skirt. Now, okay, because I wanted to show you what I did right here, I made use of 2 patterns to cut out my skirt, but you can as well cut this with one. Okay, one brown paper. Since it's not having a zipper, you don't need to fold your fabric, your paper into 4. Okay, so this is my fabric. I'm going to go ahead and cut out my pattern on fabric, and to cut it out you're going to take note of the stretching part. Okay, you can see the way I took note of that. All right, so and I'm going to fold my fabric along that side which is stretching, and then I would go ahead and place my pattern. So you can see the upper bodies and then the down block. I've placed them, use my pins to hold them down, and then I will start cutting. Okay, now that I'm cutting, I don't need any other seam allowance. That's why you can see that I'm not inputting any seam allowance right here because I've done that already on my pattern. So we are just going to go ahead and cut this out. Now I've cut out the upper part. This is the skirt part. I'm cutting out one part of the skirt. Once I am done, I'm going to fold another fabric again and cut out the second part of my skirt. Okay, so I'm going to place the first skirt on top the fabric right now. Go ahead and pin it up again and cut out exactly what I have here. Like I said, there is nothing like a zipper allowance right here, but if you want to make use of a zip, you can go ahead and add up your zipper allowance. In that case, you are not using a fabric that is stretching. Okay, so this is my boots skirts, that is the front and the back. So what I'm going to do is to take away one part of it, which is the front part. Okay, but before that I'm going to place this notch. This notch is nothing, it's just for me to indicate the upper part. Okay, not minding that I'm doing it on the sides of the skirt. Okay, so I just want to use that to indicate the upper part of the skirt, because I don't want to get myself confused while I'm joining this. Okay, so now I will also do that to the upper bodice. Okay, so this is what we have. Now the next step for me to take is to bring in another fabric, and I'm going to cut out a long strip of fabric, which is going to be serving as my rope, as my loop also. Okay, so I'm going to cut out about 1 inch wideness, and the length I don't really know, because this strip should be as long as possible, because you're going to crisscross it, okay, on your back. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut it out and go ahead and sew it up. So you can see that I'm cutting out my loop. Okay, so this loop I went ahead to use 3 inches to cut them at interval, and this is what I have, and you can see my rope as well. Okay, so this my strap. I'm going to insert it into my front bodice. So what I'm going to do is, from the center front, I'm going to go in by 6 inches, and that is the distance I want this rope. Okay, because it's going to cross into my shoulder and then to the back. Okay, so I'm going to use my pin to hold this strip into the neck of my upper bodice. Okay, so can you see? And remember that this rope is into 2 places. Okay, it's not like it's one rope which I'm trying to join into my neck. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to use my bias to turn my neck. Okay, and you can see the way I placed this strip. Okay, now once you are done with that, you're also going to input your loop. Okay, because this loop, we need it to be able to tie up our rope. Okay, so I'm just going to first of all input the first one after I go down by 1/2 inch, and the remaining I'm going to share it into 2, because I just want it into 3 places. Okay, so you can see 1 2 3, and the other side 1 2 3. So I've gone ahead to sew this, and this is what it looks like. So next step is for me to bring in the down part of my dress, which is the skirt part. So for the back, I want my back to look like a basque shape. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, from the waist, I'm going to go down by 4 inches. Okay, through the center back, and I'm going to just connect it to the side seam. Okay, now before you connect this, ensure that you remove your 1 inch for the side seam, and then you cut through. Okay, so can you see what I'm doing? I'm just going to cut it this way, and then this is for the back. So I'm going to also use my bias to turn this. Okay, so this is what it should look like after I sew in with my bias. So can you see what I have? I'm just going to bring in the fronts and show you what it should look like. Can you see? So the next step for me to take now is to bring in the upper part of my gown, and I'm going to sew in these fronts, okay, with the front of my skirt. So I'm just going to join it using 1/2 inch, and After I join it, this is what it should look like. Can you see? So now it's time for us to join the back of our skirts. So to join the back of the skirt, you're just going to follow the same allowance which you have right there. Okay, and then you sew using 1 inch. Okay, and then after I sewed it, you guys, this is what I was able to achieve. Can you see? It's looking all beautiful and clean. And for this side where I have my loop, I'm just going to use my hemming gum to hold it down. Okay, so guys, we are done with this tutorial, and this is how beautiful and perfect it is looking. Okay, I'm just going to turn it over to the backside and then lace it up for you guys to see what it should look like. Okay, so you guys, can you see? So I'm just trying to lace it up, although it's not going to come out perfectly well, but the picture I showed you earlier is just how it's going to look. I believe you guys enjoy this video and find it helpful. If you do, please give it a thumbs up. Okay, share this video to get more people to see it. And if you haven't subscribed at this point, please join this beautiful family, subscribe and turn on your notification bell to get post notification once I upload a new video. Okay, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.